Okay guys, Uncle Oz back with Lady Liz. The last heat number 5 from World's Strongest Man. We've just finished watching the Channel 5 production and an exciting heat as well. This one was stacked with some awesome big World's Strongest Man names.
Yes, this is the one I've been looking forward to watching the most.
Well, when you think in terms of big names from Strongman, you've got Brian Shaw in there, you've got Terry Hollands, you've got Nick Best. These 3 guys all been in the final before for many, many years. You've got Luke Stoltman, who's just had an incredible couple of years in Strongman, obviously finalist last year. And Ivers Smokstelis, who is just an up-and-coming superstar. He's done incredibly well in the Champions League. Maybe not so well known at World's Strongest Man, but he's actually, this I think is his 3rd World's Strongest Man contest. And he's been doing big things in other shows. He's
been doing a lot of the Arnolds, hasn't he?
He's done a lot of the Arnold shows, he's done a lot of Champions Leagues, and just making a big name for himself, especially in European competitions. So before watching this group, who did you think was going to get through?
Well, it was really, really difficult because we did our predictions, obviously, before there were any events released. We didn't actually find out events. It was pretty much on the day, wasn't it? Or the day before. So on paper, I thought Brian and Luke.
Yep.
I personally didn't know enough about Ivers to make an educated prediction there. And I just thought, you know, based purely on names, I picked Luke and Brian. The second I saw the events, I knew this was going to be an absolute nightmare for Luke. When you look at the opposite events, where it's a log and a squat, I mean, deadlift and dumbbell, they're not good events for Luke. And when you consider who he's up against, it was always going to be really, really tough. So
well, Luke's a great squatter.
Yes.
Not such a... I mean, he's a good deadlifter, don't get me wrong. He's a good deadlifter. But everyone's a good deadlifter these days.
Yeah.
Whereas less guys are good squatters.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you look at Luke, you've got that... He's got a huge big ass, big legs. He's built to squat.
He is.
And we all know how good he is on the log. So I think those events would have made a big difference.
Honestly, I think with those events, I had Luke winning the group. But, you know, that's not how it worked out.
Well, this is the exciting thing with World's Strongest Man, because on paper before this group, well, once I saw the events, I actually thought they were good events for Terry. But Terry's been hard to predict because he's
a little bit up and down.
In terms of consistency, he's not been at his best. I have to say, however, that this is probably the best Terry Hollands I've seen turn up to a competition in a long time. And, you know, I've got a colourful history with Terry. We've competed against each other many times. He's stopped me getting on the podium at World's Strongest Man. You know, we've had so many battles, and obviously I know how good he is.
Of course.
But the last few years, he's not been his best.
No. And he'd be the first to say that as well.
Logically, when you look at people's performance, people start to dwindle off. You do start to pick the younger, up-and-coming guys, the guys that are consistently performing well. So I didn't pick Terry to do that well. But damn, he proved me wrong. And you know, we'll go into the details in a second, but I've got to say, Terry, well done, buddy. You inspiration to older athletes like myself. I'm genuinely thinking of making a comeback now.
To Worlds.
I don't know about to Worlds. I certainly want to compete again.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what kind of shape I can get in. But I don't know. I'm too comfortable sat here now. To maybe,
he likes his chair.
to maybe go to Worlds. But I do miss competing. And seeing guys like, you know, Felix, Nick Best, those kind of guys still doing well.
And still enjoying it.
And that's the thing, you know how much I love training. So, yeah, it's been quite inspirational. That being said, we're going to get into the details of these events because there was one event that people are going to look at and say, why didn't you do more?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go into details of, maybe he should have done more, but why also, with the way that the rules for World's Strongest Man, it wouldn't have made a difference.
No.
So we'll start off quickly with the log. Do you want to go, with the Farmer's Walk?
Yes.
The wooden log Farmer's Walk, so that was the confusion then.
Confused.
Go on, quickly go through. Not a bad group of farmers, this.
No.
There was no poor performances.
No, so if we start in reverse order, Luke, what did he do? Is that 28 metres? And we've said this time and time again, but in other groups, that could have got him third or fourth.
That was third place in group 4.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably third place in group 4.
And that was last place in this group. So really unfortunate for Luke that he was up against guys with such great grip. Then behind, or just ahead of him was Nick Best.
I just got to defend Nick as well.
He had surgery.
Normally Nick would have done better than this.
Yes,
Nick's very good at Farmer's Walk.
I was about to defend Nick. You know I love Nick.
No, I know that, but Nick literally stepped into this competition, I think, as the alternate, like the day before, or even possibly the day of the competition.
And then he was suddenly in because other guys couldn't.
I think he had surgery. Literally weeks, or
no, it was a couple of months. You're getting a bit carried away. I'm like, protect Nick at all costs. But it was a couple of months. He had surgery on his elbow, wasn't it?
Yes. And he just didn't have time to train.
No,
and turned up at world's strongest man without training.
And one arm. It's not really.
You're not going to do your best. So
no.
To do that event, and he's beaten some of the guys that are at Worlds.
Definitely.
But I know Nick. 100% Nick is great at farm, especially this
Nick's
type of
all
farmers.
About moving with weight and grip as well.
Yeah.
He's usually got a great grip. So ahead of him then was Ivers, which was, didn't know what to expect from him, and really good performance. Ahead of him was Brian. So Brian got 40 metres. A bit slow.
Yeah, I think
he had to hold it for a really long time, didn't he? It was sort of very controlled.
It's a funny one with farmers because Terry went first, and Terry went before Brian, and set the winning distance actually of 52 metres, which if you look at other groups was a real, that was. I think only one other person went further than that. A couple of guys matched it.
I think was the only guy to go further.
But 52 metres is very good. Terry has always had a solid grip, and his farmers have always been exceptionally good event for him. But watching Brian, he wasn't going to beat Terry at that event.
The thing is as well, and we noticed this straight away, Brian is so big, and with that set of farmers, it's just so awkward, isn't it?
It's funny really when you see Brian, because you commented, because we know how big Luke is at the moment. Luke's we were up in Scotland just before Luke went to Worlds, and he was looking the biggest we've ever seen.
Yes.
And when he was next to Brian,
he looked little. He just looked normal. It just
shows how huge he is. But Brian used to be a lot quicker than he is now. And I said this to Liz just as we were sat watching it. I don't move as well. I don't move as freely as I did when I was in my 20s.
Of course not.
Your joints, you suffer with injuries. You get the wear and tear on the joints. And then you've got to think of his body weight on top of that.
Yeah.
I think he just can't move as quick as he used to.
No.
I mean, you watch Brian when he was younger, he was fast. And
Brian always used to be very fast, especially on things like loading races and having his height advantage and everything as well. He was almost unstoppable, wasn't he?
But it's like, he would rather things were just heavier and heavier and heavier, so it wasn't about moving at all sometimes.
Yeah.
But, still a good second solid. And that's what makes Brian so good, is the consistency.
Yeah.
He will have planned out every event meticulously. Moving on to the second event, which again,
it got a little bit of criticism from the commentators, didn't it? So it was quite clear, and I think they've publicly talked about it. The fact that Brian and Terry agreed to beat the 5 reps and share. So
very quickly, Nick Best did 1 rep.
Yes.
Ivers and Luke both did 5 reps.
Yes. So straight away you got a point split there. That wasn't intentional. Obviously, both those guys really trying hard to do their best and win that event.
Yeah. And then Brian Shaw went out.
Yeah.
And I think there'd been some kind of communication with Terry Hollands to both do 6 reps to tie, and then get the 4.5 points each. But watching the guys deadlift. And this, like I said, Terry being in shape.
Terry looked like he could have gone all day.
His deadlift looked really, really strong. Back to Terry looking like his best on his deadlift.
Yeah.
And when you take Terry and Brian at their absolute best on deadlift, there really wasn't a lot between them.
No,
they were both 450 kilo plus deadlifters.
Very similar strengths on it as well.
Brian probably a little bit more when it was for max. But right now, just due to injuries that he's had, Brian's deadlift is not as good as it used to be. And it's hard to say. I mean, when someone's performing, and the different types of people different deadlifts. Terry's a very explosive deadlifter, so he makes it look quite easy. Then he'll have one tougher rep, and then he's sort of gone. Yeah. I'm very similar to that. Other guys like Brian can sort of just keep grinding out, and Zadrunas is very good at that. Yes. He sort of doesn't pull fast. It's just a more controlled type of pull.
Yeah.
But that being said, Terry looked to be the stronger of the two on the deadlifts. That's, I think most of us could see that sat down watching.
I feel that if they'd both gone full on, all out, I feel like Terry would have won that event.
I do too. And that would have given Terry 2 event wins.
Yes, it would have been the perfect start. But we have calculated it, and what would have happened is by the end of the 4th, so assuming everything else went the same way, they would have been tied for points. Now, the newer World's Strongest Man rules, they do it count back based on the last event, which would have been the dumbbell. So it wouldn't have actually changed anything. Terry still would have been in the stone off.
I don't agree with that rule.
I don't either, because in previous years it used to be the most event wins.
Yes.
And Terry would have won the group based on that rule, and Brian would have been in the stone off.
Yeah.
I agree that it should be on most event wins. I don't feel you should ever give too much emphasis to just one event.
I think this is not just my issue, but a lot of people's issue with like the stone off or just favouring one event so heavily.
Yeah, putting so much emphasis on one.
Strongman is about a mixture of event. It's not like doing a 100-metre sprint. It's about being like a decathlon, if you like. It's about being good at lots of things.
I don't know when that rule changed. I don't like it. It's within the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
is it?
It's a recent change.
Yeah,
because for a long time, competitions were all about working out on countback.
Yeah.
I think it was just because it was harder to do. So organisers made it a bit easier for themselves.
Or not even the fans. I think the fans got it, but a lot of more casual viewers didn't get it. Like, we always hear, for some reason they decided to give the 2010 win to Zadrunas. No, they didn't. He won on countback. Add it up, And if they've got the same amount of event wins, then it starts going on the amount of second place finishes.
Yeah, that's when it gets a bit more confusing.
It can get a bit complicated, but it's not quantum physics, is it?
No, it's not.
But if I can do it.
It's always, the other thing I said to you after the show is like, it's easy to sit here
in hindsight
and say what if.
Yeah.
And I've been in position myself where you do something and things just don't work out how you expect. But, Terry, honestly, I thought he had a great chance of getting into the final, like without even having to do the stones. He was looking great. Probably the best shape I've seen him in a number of years. Mm-hmm. And he did well on, all the events.
I think what was unfortunate for Terry is that Ivers and Luke were so good at loading because they were both really fast. So Tom Stoltman was the fastest out of all the groups on loading, but Ivers was right behind him, wasn't he?
I think Ivers was the second fastest out of everyone.
Yeah.
And Luke wasn't far behind.
No, not far behind.
Two extremely quick guys. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty close between Brian and Terry, but Terry was always ahead. And, he just moved that a little bit quicker. Another event win over Brian. I mean, to beat Brian on 3 events.
Yeah,
that's a big scalp.
Not to make the final.
Yeah,
But that goes to show where, like, Brian won the group because of his consistency.
Brian never places low on an event. He's always
whereas the other guys, they all had something. Ivers less so, which obviously,
That loading event for Ivers was big.
Yes.
And then I think he really worked hard on the dumbbell as well, which...
Yes.
I've got to say, Brian Shaw was exceptional at this. Yes, this was the first time we saw Brian kind of put his foot on the gas and like, right, I need to step up now.
Yeah.
And he literally, the double dumbbells, he literally snatched all of them.
Yeah.
Which, if you're strong enough to do it, that's the way to do it. I think with this, I said to you the other day, you don't want to sort of lift them like you would in a gym, like when you get it onto your knees and kind of push them up.
Yeah.
You want to try and snatch them straight up into the air. If you can, clean it and then press it, or if you're strong enough to, like Brian did, almost straight into a muscle snatch, straight up. It saves energy. It's hard to do. You need to be strong enough to do it, and obviously he's got the power.
It's technical as well.
And these are the strongest guys in the world, and a lot of them can't do it. It shows how powerful Brian is, but this was where you saw him, that champion mindset, step it up, and there was no holding back either. He got to the individual dumbbell and he was pushing. He was well ahead. He knew he needed to switch it on.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was a very impressive performance.
Yeah. Luke Stoltman managed to get to the monster dumbbell, but he couldn't quite press it, could he? Obviously, we know how great he is at long.
And that shows overhead is different from event to event.
Of course.
Luke is
one of the best.
I would say Luke, Hicksy, and then if you added Iron Bibby, are the 3 best log pressers in the world. But none of those 3 you'd pick as the best dumbbell pressers.
No, that would be Novikov,
Brian, Kiliaskovsky, those kind of guys you'd pick as better dumbbell lifters. Different events, still overhead, but just different type of events.
Yeah.
And it is funny how it changes things up. And that's why I go on about how events make such a difference.
Yeah, of course.
But he kind of pushed to try and close the gap. With Nick Best obviously having to, not being able to lift it, you end up just with 4 guys in a group. It becomes very hard then to play catch up.
And Terry only had to do 1 dumbbell to get 2 points.
Yeah.
So he had to obviously resigned himself to the fact that he was going to be in the stone off at that point.
Yeah, you could see that point. He was like, all right, I know I've got to do the stones.
Yeah, he wasn't wasting any energy on an event that's tough anyway, and we know that overhead isn't Terry's strength. He would have wanted to save everything for the stones. And he put in a decent stone run, didn't he?
I got to say, we spoke about the stones, and there hasn't been many great performances. Both these guys seemed to get their tacky right.
Yes.
And both of them performed well. That was the one thing that was really noticeable. And It may be a little bit to do with they were the last group, so other groups had gone before.
They'd seen what had gone wrong.
You also get some tacky on the stones then, and it dries up a little bit. And I think, both of them looked like they were using the right type of tacky. There didn't seem to be any slipping like we saw some of the earlier groups. But Shahlaei, he just blitzed through the first 7. Real solid performance. Couldn't quite get that last one. But 8 stones is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of criticised some of the stones. I'm not criticised, but I said how, we saw guys struggling with 140 kilo stone.
Which we know they're good
which for. It's not an issue for these guys fresh. But these guys, there was none of that. They kind of got through. Terry slightly slipped on the first one, but after that he was very solid. He was fine.
And, Terry, in almost any other stone off group, he would have won.
Yes.
Unless he had to go up against Tom Stoltman, then I'm pretty sure his was behind Ivers obviously as well, his was the next best. So
it's one of those things. It always depends on
who you're up against,
what
you're doing.
Yeah, but solid performances. Brian somehow calculating it perfectly. He's a genius at
he's a strongman mathematician.
he does what he needs to do to get to the final without expending too much energy. But Shahlaei, awesome performance.
Well deserved. Really sad not to see Luke or Terry in
Obviously,
the final.
we want to see the British guys in there, but Ivers is a great strongman.
Yeah.
Deserved that position.
Never begrudge anyone after a performance like that.
And he's quite a cool guy as well.
Yeah, he seems nice.
He's quite laid back, but competitive. He gives 100%. He doesn't really care too much about
what else is going on.
He focuses on his own performance.
Yeah. And it paid off.
Paid off brilliantly.
Yeah.
So we have 10 guys in the final.
Yes, how exciting. Do you want to, shall I run through the 10 guys in the final?
Run through the finalists.
Jerry Pritchett and Luke Richardson from Group 1. Kevin Ferris and Adam Bishop from Group 2. Alexei Novikov and Tom Stoltman from Group 3. JF Caron and Graham Hicks from Group 4. And obviously from Group 5 we now have Brian Shaw and Ivers Shahlaei.
It's the first time the UK has ever had 4 guys in the final of World's Strongest Man.
Very proud of that, aren't we?
Very proud of the boys, yeah, they're doing well.
They are doing well. Could have been 5.
Yeah.
Could have been 5. Can you imagine? Half the field.
That would have been amazing.
I'd like to see more guys in the final. Do you know what was a cool final? 2014 when they had 12 guys.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Well, we know I'd like to see like 25 or 30 guys just go head to head. But
I promise we're not going to whinge tonight.
No, it was actually a better show tonight. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but I am looking forward to the final.
I'm glad the heats are over, to be honest, because
the final, the UK airing is an hour and a half special, so it's a bit longer than normal, which will be good. Hopefully, we get to see solid performances from lots of the athletes. We'll wait and see, but I am looking forward to it.
We don't know anything.
No. It's the final. I think will be a bit more exciting.
I think so too. It's going to be a bit more familiar. They're going to be outside. We've got all 10 guys together. Hopefully a bit more head-on
and a great final, to be fair. With all the issues that there's been this year and, the top 3 from last year obviously all not competing, which is sad to see, but it
makes it exciting in a lot of ways though, because it makes it so much more open. Obviously, Brian's the only former champion there. Terry's the only other person there who's ever been on the podium at Worlds.
In the whole competition,
yes.
Yeah. So there's
really
so many new faces that are kind of
come since then that it gives them a chance to shine. So I ain't mad.
No, it's great. It's always good to see these new guys coming through. Excited to see the final. Obviously, we know the results, etc., but we're still going to watch it. Still,
we still care.
Yeah, and we won't give away the results until after tomorrow. Anyway, guys, let us know what you thought of the show, and. Yeah, that's about it for tonight.
Oh, and Happy New Year, maybe? It is New Year's Eve.
It's New Year's Eve, yes. Happy New Year. Thank you again for all the support you give us. It's been really cool. Since the pandemic started, we
were like, should we just make some videos
We'll make some videos and talk to you guys. And it's been fun. So it's given us something to keep busy and focus on. And I've enjoyed it. I know Liz has.
We've had some long days, long nights,
but it's all good fun.
Yeah, no, it's been good.
And we really appreciate all the new followers that we've had, the likes, the shares, the support. It's been awesome. Have a great 2021. We'll be back with lots more Strongman action. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.